Leeds. What is happening? Welcome to Working Hours, an oral history podcast about a place called Leeds, a time called now, and an activity called work. Working Hours wants to record 1,000 loiners over the course of this, the most important decade in the history of the human species, and ask them about what they do all day and hear how they feel about it. My name is Simon, and this is all my fault. My mission here is to try to map out what my city, Leeds, a city that has declared a climate emergency, did during humanity's biggest emergency. On Working Hours, we hear how loiners have, are, and will be coping with our multiple and expanding crises during their day-to-day working hours. Can we turn things around? We'll find out. To tell this story, I need loiners like you, dear listener. I need people in Leeds or people from Leeds to come on this podcast and just tell me what they do all day and let me record how this affects us. Thank you for listening. What did you want to be when you grew up?
When I grew up, I did not have no idea what I wanted to be at all. I was trying to think back and, the usual things of wanting to be an astronaut and stuff like that. And then my cousin reminded me of my wonderful aspirations of wanting to clean tables in B&Q. She said, do you remember when you wanted to clean tables in B&Q? And I started laughing. And at one point I wanted to wash the pots for the Queen because I thought she got paid lots of money for doing that. I don't know why I wanted to do them things because I don't like washing pots and cleaning's not one of my favourite things to do. So yeah.
I suppose if you were getting paid loads of money for it, though, you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, I know, and I guess that was my thought process as a child.
I was like, that's something I can do, and surely the one that's doing it for the Queen gets paid the most.
Yeah.
You're listening to Series 5, Episode 42, and to my guest, Melissa Canavan. This is another in-person interview recorded on the 19th of November, 2024, at the Santander Work Cafe in Leeds. Hello, listener. In this episode, Melissa Canavan reflects on her unique and varied journey from having childhood dreams of working in roles as diverse as a Royal Dishwasher to eventually finding her calling in nursing and coaching. Melissa shares her insights into the challenges faced during her education and early career, the important personal decisions that led her to write a book and offering coaching, and the transformative life experiences that have guided her professional and personal growth. As always, we discuss the impact of societal issues like COVID-19 and climate change on Melissa's work and how she navigates the complexities of balancing work, personal growth, and social media presence. This time I managed to book a room at the Work Cafe to record in. Melissa even got a staff member to take a photo of us. I'll post it if I get a copy. Right, let's do this. Episode 152 of Working Hours with Melissa Canavan. So I guess you didn't end up washing pots for the Queen.
No, that was a bit disappointing.
So what is it you do now?
So I am a nurse and a coach and I am an author. So I've just recently wrote a book this year. I started off as a nurse. I didn't know I wanted to be a nurse. I fell into nursing. I was naughty at school and skived school, and then when I got my GCSE results and I thought, oh my God, what have you done? School let me stay on because they knew that I wasn't thick, and they let me stay on in sixth form, but I thought this is not for me. And I don't know if you were aware of Yorkshire Post building. In there they used to have a college on top floor, and they'd teach people to do computers, and it were an apprenticeship. You'd get a workplace, so people got like the banks, insurance companies, solicitors, and I got the bacon factory, and I cried. And I was like, I don't really want to go there, but I'm so glad I went because it were a family-run place, and I learnt lots of skills, and it was really nice and friendly. I think if it had been a bigger organisation, you just get lost in there. But I knew that was not what I wanted to do. So I went to a careers office and they asked me some questions and they said, there's this new course what's starting, and that was a nursing cadet course, it was called, and again, it was an apprenticeship. You got your MVQs level 2 and 3, and by end of it you got an interview at uni. You didn't get a guaranteed place, but you got an interview. So I thought, well, I'll just do this until I decide what I want to do, and they were some crazy years. And then I thought, oh, I actually like this. And then I got my interview at uni and they said I could get in, and I pooed myself. I was like, oh my God, I can't go to uni. And my friend had asked me to go travelling.
Yeah.
And I said, if I don't get in uni, I'll come travelling with you. But I got in uni and I thought... So I phoned up uni and I said, I know I've just got a place, but can I take a year out and go travelling? And they're like, yes, get it out of your system. So I went travelling, and then I came back, and then I started uni, and then I got pregnant. So everyone was telling me that I shouldn't have the baby because I won't finish uni, but I like to prove people wrong. So I stepped off, had my baby, went back, then found out I was pregnant again. So then I had to have another year out, and then I went back, and then I finally qualified. So it took me a lot of years to until I was a qualified nurse.
So what was the course like? Was it practical? Was it placement based? Was it all theory and books? Like, how did they...
So the uni course, I am so glad that I had done my MVQs first, because that was really practical. So I'd had lots of placements in the hospital, on the wards, learnt lots of things. So then I think if I'd had to go to uni, I wouldn't have had that ground in, because like I told you, I already had the fear of the academic writing. So at least I didn't have to deal with all that practical. I just had to focus on the academic work and all my fears about that. I can't write an essay, I can't do this, can't do that. So yeah, then at uni it was practical and theory. But being a student nurse is not easy. It's not like all them other students when they're only there for 2 hours a week or something. You know, we have to really work hard, the nights, the weekends, the theory. Sometimes when I look back and I think, wow, how did I do it with the 2 babies? You know, I was a single parent.
Where did the energy come from?
Yeah, well, I just had a drive. I could not fail. I had to keep going. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there were plenty of challenges put in your way of finishing it. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, you kind of touched a little bit on what we've kind of done, some of how you got into it and what you're doing now. But so, what you're doing now is pretty much recent this year, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
So, what I'll do is I'll move us into the COVID questions. But before I do that, what was the thing that made you take the jump? Was it you were pushed or you jumped, or was it a bit of both? Was it kind of like, my time's coming to an end here, I need to do something different? What made you make that step and go out on your own?
It came out of nowhere, to be fair. You know, I was quite happily plodding along. You know, I had a good job, I couldn't complain. I was getting the best of both worlds. I was nursing and I was coaching. I had good annual leave, good salary, and then when things were happening at work and it didn't agree to my values, I felt conflicted and I had to challenge what I was seeing, and I knew that nothing was going to change. So I either stay there and shut up and put up, or you make a change, and no matter how uncomfortable and scary that is, like, I have to live a life true to myself. And so a lot of people think I'm mad because they're like, what, you quit your job and you didn't have nothing to go to? Or maybe I am a bit crazy sometimes, but I follow my intuition. I'm quite guided, and I just trust in the process. I trust in myself, and I believe that whatever's meant to be will be. And so far, touch wood, it's got me through life. I've been on lots of crazy adventures and done lots of crazy things, but I'm still alive to tell the tales.
So what's it kind of, so you're more coaching now and you're coaching in nursing, is that?
No, so at the moment while I'm transitioning, I am doing some locum in nursing shifts because I have to pay my bills. So I'm doing part-time that. And then for the coaching, I am doing one-on-one coaching, but I am planning and preparing coaching packages for 2025. I've got a lot of good things in the pipeline, so I've been working on this.
So you're kind of day to day at the moment, are you out and about or are you at home slaving across a hot computer typing out course materials?
No, I am loving life at the moment because I am out and about, I'm all over, I'm networking, and I can't believe like how much support is out there in Leeds, especially for entrepreneurs. So I'm really lucky that I am part of Adventure. Have you heard of Adventure? Yes, I'm on the Adventure programme. So with that I get business support, templates for business plans, cash flows, lots of I needed resources. I can do certain things, but certain things I can't, cash flow and all that kind of stuff. So it was just like, wow. It's just like, oh yeah, I've got this for you, I've got that for you. You can apply for grants there. I'm also on a female entrepreneur programme. Do you know the Shine in Hairles?
Yes.
So Dawn, who owns the centre, she's set up this She Can Shine programme. So I'm part of that programme as well, and they organise lots of networking and business events to help us, marketing, just all the different aspects of business. So I feel like on this past, so I left my job in March, I think really started in June of going out and networking and going to all these different events, and I have been really out of my comfort zone. If someone would have said to me last year, you'll be going to tech events, I would have laughed and said, no, I hate tech, I hate the word tech. But I have been really enjoying. If people are asking me to go to things, I'm saying yes. I'm just saying yes to everything because you don't know what opportunities are going to be there. So I've been to different techie events like health tech. I didn't realise there were all these different health tech, fintech, so many different biotech. So I've been to different ones, but I got invited. Someone on the She Can Shine programme, she said, "Oh, would you like to come to this health tech event?" And I was a bit reluctant. I think was that the first techie thing. But I thought, yep, go. So I went, and I'm so glad that I went because I've met someone there, and we've got a meeting next week to talk about future plans. So I won't say too much. We'll wait and see if things come to fruition. But, if I wouldn't have gone there, I wouldn't have met this commissioner, I wouldn't have had the conversations. So everything just leads you to where you're meant to be, I think.
Yeah, and it's that... there are only so many opportunities you can create at home on a computer or on your phone from a post. Like you do have to go out into the world and kind of create those events and create those happenings.
And sometimes I do think, wow, what are you doing? Are you even delusional? Like, I do have words with myself, like, sometimes doubts will pop up, but I just think, if you want change, you need to make changes, don't you? And you have to put yourself into these uncomfortable situations. And sometimes I'm just sat there thinking, what are you doing? But it's fine.
So how are you adjusting to kind of civilian hours, I guess?
Oh, well, for me, that's okay because I haven't worked in the hospital for years. Okay. I worked in primary care, so that's Monday to Friday. So for years, I never worked Monday anyway, so I just worked Tuesday to Friday. But transitioning into what I'm doing now has felt... It were a bit weird at first because... even though I only did Tuesday to Friday, that Tuesday to Friday was hard work. You know, in the hospitals, I had to physically work hard.
Yeah.
And then in primary care, you've got to mentally work hard. So, you know, in one of the surgeries I used to work, they'd be like, oh, you know, can't you just work on the Monday? And I'm like, no, I can't, because my head would not take any more of the... And, you know, thinking about what we do put up with, like, it is constant. You know, in GP surgeries, you've just got patient after patient after patient after patient after patient. And when you're given individualised care to all them, you know, thinking individually to meet their needs, and they're all different, and it is just so complex, and it is difficult working in that environment because you've got all the systems what want you to tick boxes and meet targets and fit so many people in the times. But then I have always been lucky, to be fair, that I have always had enough time to do a proper review, a holistic review, so I can look at them physically, mentally, emotionally. And in that review, if they need extra help with this, that, I can do all, you know, the referrals. So in my eyes, if you just get them once and do everything, then they're not going to keep coming back as much as, you know, they've got 10 minutes and you can only talk about that. And actually, that's just scratching the surface. That's just a symptom. You never get into the root. So I would love I felt like I had enough time to connect with them and find out what was really going on, and then trying to help. And in the long term, that has an impact, you know, mentally, physically. Just even that time of them being listened to and just having that space, that is therapeutic in itself, you know. They just feel so different, like the way it's lifted.
Treating people like people has a tremendous response rate, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Instead of like objects that just need to be moved along.
Yeah.
So let's jump into COVID, because we've kind of skirted around it. So going into the lockdown, how that affected your workload. So this is going to be an interesting one, given where you were working at the time, and then sort of coming out of lockdown. Did anything sort of change permanently for you work-wise after lockdown or coming out of lockdown?
Going into lockdown was very scary.
Were you office-based at this time?
Just in clinics, so I wasn't working in the hospital then.
So you weren't frontline?
I was working in the GP practices, we were doing my normal clinics. So then when, you know, this came out and it was like scary, we felt like everyone was going to die, what's going on, the panic. I remember saying to my mum, you're going to have my kids, I'm going to have to go back into the hospitals, I'm going to have to help them. You know, fear, thinking, oh my God, I haven't been in a hospital for however many years, but, you know, I was willing to do that. And then trying to get into the hospital to help them, it was, you're just so full of barriers and like, well, what's going on if we're going to be having all these millions of people dying? Why are they not accepting help? It was just a bit...
They weren't set up for anything. You remember when they asked for all them volunteers?
Yeah.
And hundreds of thousands of people signed up for it and they had nothing to do with them.
Oh, the Nightingale hospitals, what they'd spent like millions of pounds on, and not one of them got used. So that was... So then it changed to, instead of people coming to the GP surgeries at first, it was all telephone. So for the first lockdown, the NHS was quiet. Like, all the GP surgeries were like ghost towns. Hospitals were quiet, you know. Do you remember people doing TikToks and stuff like that? And then they all got into trouble for doing it because they were showing what it was like. So, and then obviously there were a few more lockdowns after that. So the lockdowns after that were busy because people had been sat at home for however long, being sick and not daring go into hospitals or not daring go into GP surgeries. So then there was a lot of illness.
Or if you did, I mean, if you tried to find any health information during that first lockdown, it was go to 111, the website, which tells you to ring the phone number, which the phone number then tells you to go to the website. And you didn't really get anywhere. You know, you'd get a phone call and they'd basically say, well, get better.
Yeah, no, it was, yeah, a lot of people were told to just stay at home. Stay at home, save lives.
Yeah, and a lot of the footage initially was sort of really full hospitals and...
Yeah, or people dropping down dead in the street. Do you remember that one? In China, when they were dropping down... I never saw anyone drop down dead in the street, did you?
No.
There was a lot of fear pumped, when, when you stop and look back and reflect and think, wow.
Yeah. Well, we'll get into that, I guess, when we hit social media. So, coming out the other side, I mean, your work, I'm guessing your work and the demands on your work, and it sounds like you could kind of opt into this, but it was like, there is all the work in the world if you want it, and you can work all the hours that you want to, and then it's just a matter of you saying, this is how much I can give. Is that in the region of being right?
Yeah. I could work as much as I want or as much as I don't want to, really. And I guess that's quite a lucky space to be. Like, I could have worked more to earn more money, to do more things, but to me, money is not the be all and end all.
Yeah.
I'd rather health is wealth. So, what's the point of working, got all hours God sends, so you've got some money, but then you just... You've
got to spend it all on your own healthcare.
Yeah, you don't have the time to enjoy it or the health to enjoy it. So I'd rather just do what I need to do to do what I need. But I love to have fun. I, love living life and making experiences, because I feel that's really important. I don't want to just go to work, come home and do that every day, eat, sleep, work, repeat. That is not for me. I like to try new things, new experiences, go new places. I love my job, I love what I do, but I also love my life as well. And I have to have my boundaries of how much I'm willing to give. Yeah.
And I think that is a very difficult thing to find. It's the knowing your limits thing, isn't it? It's like, how much energy should I be giving to this? Yes, I've got more and I can give it and I can throw it in there, but does that leave me impoverished energy-wise elsewhere in my life? Am I distributing my own resources appropriately?
And like over years, I mean, I guess it has took me time to learn that as well, because over years I have had places where I am really down and exhausted and burnt out, but I've just had to keep going. And myself, I've put a lot of pressure on myself over years, because I ended up setting up my own social enterprise. I co-founded a social enterprise with another nurse. So we did that in like 2015. So leading up to that, just my own pressures, putting it on myself. I need to do this, I need to do that. Like an anxiety driven, I was always doing, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to do this, and it was constant. Whereas now I am total, I think internally, I don't know what it looks like externally, but internally I was I was quite manic. I need to do this, I need to do that. And it was like being on the hamster wheel. Whereas now, I am the total opposite of that. I am just so, like, chilled out. And I'm just being, I'm not doing. And sometimes I do think to myself, sometimes I feel like I'm lazy compared to what I used to be like. And like, that's what I was saying earlier. Oh, I've gone on a tangent, and I always go on a tangent. When I left my job in March to now, that transition of not having to be at work every day. So I need to have some motivation and not dedication, what's the word, to keep me going every day, because I could have quite easily just got into a lazy habit of not doing anything. Oh, well, you ain't got nothing to do. But I've made myself find something every day, and all the things that have just transpired, I've not planned, I didn't know. I've just been to so many different events, but it's been nice getting up sometimes and just going to the gym and then going and doing something, and just on a different, slowed down pace when you've been constantly used to, you know, working, fast, more, do, to on this chilled out, slower pace. It was hard at first internally, thinking, but I feel like I've transitioned into it nice now. I like my slow, relaxed speed what I'm on. And then I thought to myself, maybe this is just a quiet phase, because like I said to you, I've been planning for 2025. Maybe my life is going to explode again and I might be on a... but I feel like it's going to be a different... Whatever it is.
Sounds like you wouldn't want to work that way, though. Sounds like you'd be like, hang on, no. Let's take this at a steady rate.
But I feel like because I have always worked from being 15 and always worked hard, you know, I feel like now for these past however many months it's been a chance for me to have a rest. And, you know, some days when I haven't had naught to do, I've never not done things on days, if that makes sense. You know, on days off, I've always had to do something. So just having days of nothingness. And now I know as well that I need these days of nothingness to help me recharge. And I think that's been important as well, setting my boundaries with people, because sometimes people say, oh, but you're not doing out. Well, just because I'm not doing out, I'm resting.
Yeah.
And
that is part of work.
Yeah.
Like, because humans aren't machines.
Yeah.
And even with a machine, like, you need to cool a machine.
Yeah.
Like, it needs to switch off and stay fallow for a bit. You know, and you have to do maintenance on it. Just this obsession that everything can run at a constant rate forever. And it's like, no.
Yeah.
that has never existed and will never exist.
Yeah.
So, how did the book come about? Was that, like, did you start with sort of blog posts and then it kind of... Or you just went, right, I'm writing?
Well, no, because the book is based on a 4-week course what we developed in the NHS before I left. So we developed the 4-week course, me and Ellen, who was another coach, and we initially delivered it to women. So it was a health inequalities project. So it was for black women at first. A majority of the women on the course didn't speak English. And we did an evaluation after of that, and it was really highly rated of the changes. So we monitored mental health, and we had some good case studies, like one lady, she'd not left her house for 3 years. She received a text and she came, and after 4 weeks she was out and about, she had new friends, she was going to community groups, and so in 4 weeks the change in her was just amazing. So that was that, and then I left my job and I was just being guided to wherever I was going, and I got invited to Climb 24. Do you know Climb 24?
It rings a bell, that... Yeah, I don't think...
So that was like a big conference in the summer, tech, investors, all different kinds of stuff like that. Because, so when I left my job and everyone said, what are you going to do? And I said, I don't know, it'll come to me. It came to me that I'm supposed to open a healing centre with different machines, what cost a lot of money. And I thought, oh my God, how am I going to do that? And then I've been led to investors in different rooms where there's lots of investors. So I've been learning lots of stuff about that, what I didn't know before, VCs, angel investors, just it's all like a whole new world. So I got invited to Climb 24, what had investors, and it was tech. And then I was just having a conversation with one of the exhibitors. They made books. And I was just joking. I said, I've got loads of books in me, because I could probably write a lot of books, to be fair, on lots of different topics. So we connected on LinkedIn and she sent me a link, and I thought, oh, let's just have a go of this. But it was with AI. So when I started, and AI kept trying to change things, and I thought, no, I'm just going to do this on my own. So I just started on a Word document and I wrote it in a week. I didn't have a laptop because I'd left my job. I'd been there for 7 years, so I just had their laptop. So anyway, I didn't have a laptop and I'd be out walking my dog and things had come into my brain. I'd write it in my notes and email myself it, and it was like the book had to come out of me. I just couldn't stop. So it was done in a week, and then it was published in the July, because that was another getting guided to the publishers. I've learnt so much about publishing, what I didn't know before, and there's just so many different worlds out there, and there's so many different, you know, like in the publishing world, I didn't know about, there's so many con artists and so many different ways to do, it's just been
the whole world of AI publishing for Amazon, of like made up, ripped off books that, that aren't written by anyone.
It's just like, I've just been learning lots of stuff. So,
Has anything changed for you work-wise since we have Brexited? Other than you moving into working for yourself?
Not me personally. You know, sometimes there's like medicine shortages and things like that. And then you've got all the immigration things of nurses and stuff like that. But it's not, it's not really impacted me personally.
So, climate change again, I think will be another short one. So I asked this for a number of reasons. Again, something that I want to talk about, but also Leeds has declared a climate emergency. Is there anything in your work? Is it something that you've come across? Is it something that you have to deal with or that has impacted you?
In the nursing for the climate change agenda inhalers, so I'm a respiratory nurse specialist, and so there's a big drive on now of green inhalers, because some of them emit more than others. So
is that the propellant? It's like the aerosols that you're using.
So there's been switches. You know, they want patients on dry powdered inhalers rather than the propellant inhalers, and so all across the country there's a drive on for that. And then in some areas, some places are doing things which I don't think are ethical, blanket switching patients from this inhaler to that inhaler. Well,
so much for informed consent.
Yes, that's one of I'm very passionate about informed consent and shared decision making. So, and for the inhalers, it's really important that a lot of people out there can't use the inhalers properly anyway, and especially if you're just changing them without checking their inhaler technique, making sure they can use it properly. This is why people end up in hospital, because the drugs are not getting into the lungs properly. So that's where it's having a big impact in my line of work, really. There's a big focus on the inhalers, what people are taking, and patients like what they like as well, you know.
Well, because there's a trust element to it as well. It's like you have to trust the doctor, you have to trust the medication, you have to, and you have to trust that it's kind of working for you as well. If you keep on taking it. And a lot of people will just do what the doctors tell them to do, but a lot of people won't.
I know, and I feel like some of the literature and some of the things what they talk about, I think it sounds a bit guilt-tripping, to be honest. If you use one of these inhalers, it's the equivalent of driving so many hundreds of miles, and this is the way they're framing it.
So tackle the automotive industry then, and then come back to us, and we can deal with this major problem. It's like, priorities, people.
So I think that's the only way I can think. I guess another is air pollution. That is a big thing in respiratory. So that does concern me, because we as a nation, we're the sickest we've ever been. Everyone's sick, tired, exhausted, drained, mental health through the roof. Everything is, if you just stop and look, we are in a mess. you know, and there's lots of different parts of the system what are affecting that, but when you just stop and look at all them different parts, like, wow, no wonder people are feeling the way they are feeling. So I do get concerned about things, but probably not in a way of what a lot of other people are thinking about things.
Let's do the social media question. How much time do you have to spend on it for your work, and do you feel that time is well invested? Do you get what you want out of that time? Does it give you the results that you want / need?
Social media, in the professional capacity of putting yourself out there, I don't like putting myself out there. So this is part of my growth, that I'm having to do more. For one, I told you earlier I don't like tech. So I've had Instagram for years. I've got a few posts on there of pictures. I didn't put them on. My daughter put them on. I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to. And I should really make more of an effort. All I do is share other people's stories on my Instagram. So that's my personal one. My daughter set me up Instagram for coaching.
Right.
I've set up a Facebook page for my book. Been forcing myself to, because my daughter organised a book launch as well and got a photographer, and like, this is all my worst fears. I hate photos, I hate being filmed. Doing this podcast, I've made myself do this as part of growth. So I've got LinkedIn, and I've been trying to be more, posting at least every week on there, trying to be a little bit, just so that they can get to know me, really, I think, so that when 2025 does come, boom, whatever's going to happen, it's going to be a good year and a big year, I know it is. So I guess I'm just kind of I've met so many people on LinkedIn as well, like, I'm having good conversations in the inboxes. I've met up with people, I've met people, I put that as a post the other day actually as well, that someone said to me, we're family turning into friends, and I really do feel like you attract your vibe, don't you? And I am meeting a lot of people in these past few months what are just beautiful humans. They're so passionate and kind and compassionate, and everyone wants to help each other, and like, just such a good community, and it is just full of high vibrational people. I'm just loving it at the moment. So even though I'm reluctant and I hate social media, I am putting myself out there more.
Are you consuming more than you produce at the moment still? Are you sort of like responding to stuff, and then that starts a conversation, and then you go to an event, or?
I'm not doing much social media compared to what other people are, I guess. But I feel like the networking is, I'd rather network, I think, than be social media posting.
I mean, so, and I've said this a few times, so all the stuff you read when you're going to do your own social media and stuff, they're all based on the increasing your likes and increasing your followers kind of thing. And it really isn't about that. It's about, it's not the quantity, it's the quality. So it's like who connects, who sees your post that's more important. And it's reaching those important people that you can actually work with or can sell to, or, people who are useful to you and your brand or your offering, however we want to phrase
And I think maybe that's why I've not really been like that in the past, because I always saw social media as people wanting to get likes and wanting to, very egotistical, and
it's very about me, look at me.
Yeah,
have you seen me? I'm great.
That's what it's always been like. So that's why I've never really wanted to get involved with that, and that affects people's mental health as well.
Massively.
Like, I've had friends, even, I won't say that in case she listens, but like, someone was like, not that long ago, I've changed my Facebook profile picture and hardly anyone's liked it, something must be wrong, and and then start questioning, doubting myself, and it's like, wow, like you don't need all this external validation.
And I love it's the ownership that people have of it, because they can, because we can tweak a couple of cosmetic things on a part of the website, like our page, that we think that we can curate our entire experience. So like, it doesn't matter what you're doing. What matters is what the algorithm decides to do with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have this idea that we have control over it. It's like, no, you don't.
Yeah.
What else social media wise? I mean, for the book, is the book, it's traditionally published with a price, you're selling the book, or is that, has that become part of the content package? Is that now you give the book away for free?
It's so this book, it's self-published, so it's print on demand. The book has been published by Balboa Press, and they are like a sister company of Hay House. Have you heard of Hay House before?
No, I don't think I have.
So they're like the self-development, spiritual book people, which are global.
Yeah.
So I would love to get published by Hay House. If I did that, wow, it'd be life-changing. So, like, again, I told you I'm guided. So there was 3 different publishers until I got to that one. I thought, yep. And then, obviously, there's always, like, 3 sides to every story: his side, her side, and the truth. So I had signed up with Balboa, and then people are like, oh, you start saying things, and then I started reading, and I thought, oh my God. But then I thought, well, no, I've actually had a good experience of it. I'm really happy with what I've got from it, because people are like, well, you could have done it and cheaper, or I wouldn't have, but I wouldn't have been able to do what they did for me, they did guide me through it and do lots of things, and they've put it out there, and so I am thankful for that. So I forgot what the question was. Did you ask me?
I was asking I was trying to get where you had positioned the book. So because a lot of people, they'll give away a free book.
Oh yeah. Well, so I can't do that at the moment because I'm poor, and
I need to get paid for my work.
Yeah, and because I got a credit card. I've never been in debt before COVID. I don't like stuff like that. But if this is what I needed to do, so I got a credit card, and then I paid to buy some books, what you can sell. So I've sold them at my book launch, and I've been to day events and things like that. So I've got some other events coming up to sell the book. So I would love to give my book away for free, because I believe if the whole world read that book, the world would be a different place.
But there is a problem with free, in
people
that
don't value
people
things.
don't value it.
No.
Yeah, and also, so something like the podcast, for example. I don't think anyone in Britain would ever pay for, especially in Leeds, would pay for it, because it's like that's in the well of free. Like podcasts are free.
Yeah.
So why would you pay for this thing, even though someone's worked on it? And you would pay, you'd pay a busker in the street for playing a song that you liked. You'd give them some change or whatever. But you don't, it puts it in specific places. The fact that you've got a book that you're selling for money, and also, it's that ice-breaking thing. It's a really good way of networking and doing contacts and following up on what you've done, in what you've said in any presentations or anything. You're dealing directly with the audience. They're giving you money. They're buying from you, building that relationship. Because once they made that purchase, they bought from you.
Yeah.
They trust you. You can sell to them again.
Yeah.
So it's that.
I think that's another thing what I've been working on as well, of value and money and things like that, because obviously I've worked in the NHS for years, and I'm such a giving person. I want to help.
Public services into private business.
And charging and all that lot. That's been good
and
growth.
Chasing people for money.
Oh yeah, outstanding invoices, and people are like, oh, I never got that invoice, and that's quite interesting as well, because like I am a one-woman band. I'm not a big organisation. So if you're not paying my invoices, that's having an impact as well, you know. I have been quite lucky as that I've chased them up a few times and then it's in there. But I have heard of some people, and I didn't realise that until I've been networking and speaking to people, that some people have not been paid for like months and months. You know, if you were waiting for that, we've still got bills to pay. So that's tricky, you know, when you have had a proper job for all them years.
Yeah, especially if you put in, you know, if you're doing a few months' work, that's a good percentage of your year that you're not being paid for until that's resolved.
So, yeah.
And before I was like, well, I get paid whether I work or not. When I'm gonna work.
You could have your holidays getting paid for and all that kind of stuff.
Which is why you got to put it into your prices, you know, and finding the price of. So I don't know if you've done any of this, but talking about and finding your price, like where your price is, because there's what you want to charge people as like that feels like a reasonable rate, but then you've got to cover all your costs and your time and like fallow periods.
I think some people don't realise that as well. And even like for the locum as a nurse, I'm not working for an agency, so I'm cheaper than an agency when I'm offering my service, but they're getting more than what they'd for an agency because I can prescribe. So if you want a prescribing nurse in an agency, you have to pay even more for that. So I'm coming in at with a price which is less than the agency, but they're getting more value. So that's working quite well, although some surgeries don't want to pay that, and I think, well, don't pay it because I'm not changing, because again I have to factor in holidays, you know, all my insurance, all my business bills, so they might see it as I'm getting all that money for, you know, but actually no, I've got a lot of outgoings.
Yeah, and also years of experience.
Yeah.
It's like, well, how much is the experience worth?
Yeah. Like, even if I'm going to a surgery to work for locum, I'm not part of that surgery. I don't have to, like a locum nurse should just go and just see them patients and that's it. You know, if there's naught to do, I'll be like, have you got what you want me to do? Or do you want me to do this for you? And because I know of different targets, what they need to meet and stuff like that. Like, oh, would you like me to look at that for you? Or look at, you know, I'm always trying to offer more value, and not just because, but that's just who I am anyway. I'd rather help. I just want to help and try and make things a bit easier for people.
So if you could change any three things, so you can be realistic or you can be totally fantastical, but if you could change any three things about your work, what would you change?
Well, if I could change anything, number one, I'd have my healing centre. That would just be amazing in Leeds, and help people realise that they can do a lot for themselves to make themselves feel better. Because there's a lot out there. I think a lot is coming to the forefront now. A lot of people are realising that there are alternative things as well as modern medicine. There's a lot of ancient wisdom, what has been lost, I guess, over the years, but it is all coming back now and emerging, and people are realising that we are powerful beings. So I think it's quite an exciting time to be alive, really. So yeah, I'd change that. I'd have my healing centre. I'd have someone doing my social media stuff for me. But that will come. And what else would I change? I don't know what else I'd change, because I'm just loving all the networking and stuff. I just can't believe how much is out there for people. Maybe, you know, once I am busy, will I have time to do that anymore? I don't know. But I will be a bit gutted. Now I'm going to have to still keep doing it.
Are you focused on, so what's your kind of area? Because, I mean, obviously medicine's a massive area. are you looking to coach and sort of transform a particular area or a particular subset?
Well, so 2025, my plan of what I'm working on is going to be specifically initially aimed at perimenopausal business women.
Okay.
Before I left my NHS job, I'd done group coaching and set up stuff for the menopause and got lots of women together, and it was really empowering. They learned a lot, and that was just like a one-off session, standalone session, and they really, benefited from that and wanted more. And then as myself going through perimenopause, and I'm not even fully there yet, but I started taking some perimenopausal vitamins like a year or two ago because my brain, like I used to be very sprightly, always on the ball, and then you start to be like working with the younger people, and I'm like, oh, what's that word? And she'd start saying words, and I'd be like, no, yeah, that's it. And, and I'd be like, I didn't always used to be like this. And then sometimes your brain just don't work. And that's just only a little part of it. My body aches and stuff, and I take lots of supplements and stuff, and go to gym, and just how your body changes, your mind changes. It is a lot. But I think for me, over the years, I have had breakdowns and, I've gone through a lot of stuff, which I believe everything happens for a reason, because I've gone through transitions. I've gone through loss of identity. Like I said to you earlier, I was passionate about nursing before. I loved it. And then going through that transition of who am I? So there's a lot of women now, perimenopausal women, what are going through change, losing their identity. Who am I now? I don't know who I am. Going through all this messy thoughts and feelings, and it can be quite scary. But so to support women through this change, but also empower them, help them get to where they want to be in the future. So they might not even know at the moment. They might just feel lost. But on the programme, what I'm developing, helping them to discover who they really are and being who they really are, because a lot of people are living their lives for other people to make everyone else happy. It might be the parents, they're doing that job just because the parents wanted them to do it, or they don't leave that marriage because they've got children and don't want to. A lot of people are stuck in situations when they don't really want to be there. They're doing it for other people, but what about them? So my book's called Looking After Me, and it is about bringing it back to ourselves, because a lot of us, we just give to others, make everyone else happy, but at a cost of ourselves. And even if you do live your life to make everyone else happy, they're never going to be happy anyway, no matter what you do, because we're not living up to their expectations.
Yeah, and if you ask most people that care about someone what they want for the person they care about, they'll say, I want them to be happy. Yeah. Even though I do my best to destroy that all the time by giving them lots of jobs and responsibility and things that they can disappoint me in. But yeah, I would agree with a lot of that. So, universal basic income, again, this is something that I want to talk about because not many people talk about it. So, the idea, are you familiar with universal basic income?
Well, when I looked on your questions and I thought, what is UBI? And then I listened to a podcast, what you'd done with someone else, and I thought, oh, this is interesting. So why have you chosen to talk about this?
Because I'm sick of seeing more and more homeless people on the streets, and I don't want to be one of them. And I think we need something to construct some kind of, not only a baseline, but some kind of cohesive policy. You can't just rely on the BBC to create a nation. And yeah, it'd be nice for the government to actually give us something instead of taking stuff away from us. And yeah, why do we not have a benchmark in society that people can't fall below? Like, why do we allow people to be homeless? So the main objections largely, the two main objections to having a universal basic income that I'm aware of are who's going to pay for it, and people won't do any work if you give them money for free. And nobody who I've asked has said I wouldn't work. Now that might just be because they're being put on something that's going to be published out there, and really they just sit at home. But, I don't think that's the case, and especially as most of us, like a lot of us, had the experience of sitting at home through COVID, and it didn't do much of us much good. So yeah, and it's get rid of means tested benefits and give people regular payments and let people have control over their life and ability to plan. That's my reading on it. But yeah, do you think if there was a UBI, if that would change the way that you work? So for example, would you be doing what you're doing now, and would you be doing it the way that you're doing it now if there was a UBI in place? So you would have a payment there, so when you left work, it's like, well, there's some payment there to kind of tide me over and I don't have to hit my savings too much. Would that have changed your approach? I don't think it would. I think because it sounds like you came out of that and you're like, I need to get this book out of my head.
Well, not even that, because the book wasn't planned. I left in March. I had a conversation in June, and then it were wrote a week or two later. So I didn't even know we were going to do that. The universal basic income for me, there's a lot of thought process for that, but for the purposes of the podcast, like, I agree, there shouldn't be people homeless. I think that there's issues with the benefit system.
It's crap.
Yeah. So
I call them the Department for death to workers and pensioners. That's what DWP stands for.
Yeah, and there's just so many issues with that system. The universal basic income for me sparks off lots of thoughts. Like, it is good to have a safety net, but I guess it could make people complacent, because like I've got to drive. I have to, because there's not to fall back on, if that makes sense. So I have to make something happen. Whereas if I didn't have to, if there was something there, it'd be like, oh, I might be.
Do you think you would do nothing though?
No, I just think I couldn't. I was even thinking about this the other day. Someone said something about if I became really rich, and I went, well, even if I were really rich, I'd still have to work. Just for the fact of, well, because I love my job anyway, of helping people, and I do feel like I have got a lot of knowledge and wisdom and to share with the world, that I couldn't just not, I couldn't get rich and then that's it. Oh, thank you very much.
Okay, so with the travel, is travel work? I guess two ways you can approach this. So what I want you to do is think in the travel mindset of, could you do that forever? Like, could you just travel around forever, and would that be, if you had the money for it, would that be valid? Would that be a valid way to live, just travelling around, seeing everything?
I'd love to do that.
But would it be a valid way to live? Would you be contributing to society by doing that? Or are you just, No,
because I'd like to do retreats in different countries and things. Are you thinking along the climate agenda change?
No, I'm thinking along the lines of, are you doing anything socially useful by travelling? Like, I've travelled as well. And, I read Jack Kerouac, and I think he's full of shit. Massively overrated. I think a lot of travelling is being an executive bum. Do you know what I mean? And it's, unlike tourism and so on, it's great to see the places, but are you contributing socially? Are you doing anything more than putting a few bucks into the local economy? I guess I'm looking at, so part of this podcast is about what is work and what makes it work. So like housework, is that work? It's called work, it's housework, and people get paid for it? No? Maybe some people do. Like, but, so there is work that is paid, there is work that is unpaid. So being paid doesn't make something work.
Yeah.
So what does make something work? That's a difficult question. So you said you'd have to do something, but you enjoy traveling, and you obviously, you want to see parts of the world, you want to experience these things. Is there a way in that could be work, or is that always not work? So if you were writing a blog, say, and you were getting paid for it, is it then work? So I guess is there a situation in which you could, and I mean you specifically, can you imagine a situation where you could specifically be kind of not doing something, but that was all right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, so if I'm...
So you're not...
Yeah.
I'm doing something, but I'm not doing something. Kind of.
Yeah, I get what you mean. Yeah, I could do that. Because, when I said that, when I said I'd still have to work, that don't mean I'd have to get paid for it. I won't be bothered about getting paid for it. But I'd like to go and do things. And, yeah, I do like travelling. And because usually for me, travelling, I learn a lot. So about myself, even, so I do retreats and stuff. I've done lots of that. So travelling to me as well is transformative. But even if I'm not going on a retreat, things always happen to me. So either flights get cancelled, trains break down, nothing ever goes smoothly. It does when I went with my kids, which I'm always thankful for, because I couldn't have imagined nothing worse than being stranded somewhere with my kids. But yeah, I've always seen it as lessons, teaching me to let go, to go with the flow, because we can be so rigid in our plans and ideas and of what's meant to happen, that when it doesn't happen, people can have breakdowns or that was the worst trip ever. But actually, I just love it.
People are furious about their expectations, and it's like, nobody cares about your expectations. We are here dealing with reality. This is what's really happened. Deal with it.
Yeah, but a lot of people can't. And it's funny, she won't mind me saying this, but me and my cousin were going to Mexico, and we'd set off flying 2 hours into the air, and then an announcement came over at Hanoi that we were going back to Manchester Airport because we had a flat tyre, and she's nearly panicking. I'm like, it's fine. So we've gone back to Manchester. We had to wait. We weren't sure if they were going to have to get us off, change the crew because they'd been on too long, but they managed to stay on. We were there, and it was so hot as well in England for a change. They wouldn't let us off the plane, and then we set off again. So I think we'd ended up being on that plane for about 18 hours or so. But there's no point stressing about it. There's no what we can do. I said, and we'll just get compensation anyway, so it's fine. And then she was like, right, okay. And then she's like, wow, that holiday only ended up costing us £300 because. So I said, see, you just got to take the positives. But yeah, it's funny. But yeah, things always happen when I go travelling. Planes get cancelled, and it is what it is. We've just got to find a way around it.
Very true.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of times when I do travel, it is to teach me lessons of letting go and surrendering and trusting, and that I'm right where I'm meant to be. And yeah. So,
are you, now you've had all these travel experiences, are you now completely zen when you need to go and use the transport infrastructure in this country?
No, and I was even thinking to myself the other day, am I the only one who drives around Leeds going, F-U-C-K? Every time I go over a pothole, I cannot believe how bad these roads are. It is awful, and it just seems like it's getting worse. And then someone phoned me yesterday or the day before. He'd gone near my house. Did I know anyone who could help him? The tyre was gone. Like, he said he'd just gone over a pothole near my house. I said, take a photo of it. I said, get in touch with the council. I said, because there's apparently they've got a pot of money for people. It is terrible. I can't believe how bad the roads are. And yeah, I've used driving for years as trying to practice patience, and I think I'm quite good at it now, because when I first started driving I was terrible. When I had my driving lessons, I've gone like that to beep the horn at my driving instructor's grandman. He's like, what are you doing? I'm like, did you just see that? And he's like, you can't beep the horn, that's for an emergency. I'm like, oh, sorry. But I would have been a lunatic driver, banging the horn. But yeah, so over the years I have used driving as my practice for patience. I have got a lot better, but I do get really angry at these potholes and things. It does rile the energies.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? You can sit somewhere in the tropics and wait for half a day for a transport to turn up. Oh, I'll be here when it's here.
Oh, it's fine.
And then you go in your train's half an hour late. You're like, oh, I demand to see someone and have their head on a spike.
Yeah.
So you're gearing up. It sounds like next year is going to be the year. You're working towards this, and it's going to be the year. So what's going to happen? What can people expect to see? Who do you want to help? Who should come and, who should be looking at stuff? Who should be joining this and getting involved? Who's it for?
Well, 2025. So when I left my job and I didn't know what I was doing, and I've just been wading my way through things, and it wasn't until I went to London about 2 weeks ago, I think 3 weeks ago, and there was lots of coaches and mentors there and watching lots of things, and then after that it was like, right, I know what I'm doing now. That gave me a framework, a plan of something concrete what I can work on for next year. So that is what I've been, what I'm working on, and then like I've said, I'm guided and stuff. So I went to an event and there was a woman, and in the session she got people walking over broken glass, and I just knew, just from how she is, I can feel energies in people, and I know when that person's my person. And so we're connected anyway, and we had a chat, and so she's doing fire walking, walking over hot coals, facilitator training. So I know that that's what I'm supposed to do. I just knew I ain't got the money. I'm going to have to use the credit card again. I haven't paid for it yet, but I've said to her, I will be on your course in February. And I think she's quite spiritual and metaphysical like me, and understands that. I've said, I'm going to manifest. If I haven't manifested anything by then, I'm still doing it, because I'll do what I have to do. I'll get a loan, I'll get a credit card, I'll do whatever. I am joining your course in February. And then I went to this wellness workshop a day or two after that conversation, and you could sit anywhere you wanted. And I went and sat down, and there's like oracle card, and I turned it over and it said Fire Guardian. I was like, I am supposed to do. I just know that's. So I'm really excited about. So on Thursday this week, I'm doing my first fire walk, walking over the hot coals. So that is like the scariest thing ever, because it was like, when we had our conversations, I knew that that's what I'm supposed to be doing. But then I had the realisation of, shit, you're going to have to do it. If you're going to do that. So yeah, I'm going to be doing my first walking over hot coals on Thursday evening, hopefully, all being well. Yeah. And then I was thinking, oh my God, it's snowed. So we've got the snow. So my worst things, like I've been telling myself for I don't know how long, that I need to do a cold water, swim, like plunge, or plunge or something. Only because, to face my fears, because I hate being cold. I don't really like getting in the water.
I'm not doing that. I'd rather you than me.
Well, I keep telling myself that I need to do it just for the fact of just to face my fears and get over it. So yeah, I don't like being cold. And then I was thinking, oh my God, it's freezing. Snow. I'm going to be doing a fire walk. Like, I hate, like my feet, I've got a thing about feet, I hate feet. And now my feet are going to be freezing, but then they're going to be hot. And like, oh, so yeah, I'll message you on Friday and tell you how, if I've survived or not. But I do like to try and push myself. And overcome my fears and do the things what scare me. And yeah, so...
Cool. Is there anything that you want to tell people about? Anything in particular that you want people to sort of check out, or a time to look at something? Or do you want to plug the book? Or
I might as well plug the book. So the book, I am saying it's a book about the power of the mind. So, you know, people who know me, when they've read the back, I think they thought it was going to be my life story. So I think some people were a bit...
my spiritual journey.
Yeah, I think some people were a bit like... So it is like a workbook journal type thing, and it's got different exercises. So it's a mixture of modern psychology with ancient wisdom, coaching techniques. It's just a blend of everything, what I've learned over the years, taking people through a process. The first chapter is self-confidence and self-perceptions. The next chapter is setting boundaries and positive relationships. The third one is self-care and self-compassion. And the last chapter is about the ideal self. And anyone can read this book. So people have started writing reviews on the website, and you know, there's a 16-year-old from Lithuania, and she said that this book will save lives. My friend, she bought it, and she wrote a review on that. Her 18-year-old son read it and asked his mum to buy him another so he could give it to his friend who was struggling. My daughter told me that a 14-year-old had stopped her in the street. Her parents had bought the book and she'd read the book. So the 14-year-old was like, tell your mum thank you so much for writing that book. I've had a lot of feedback from guys about how good the book is to help them with their mindset, but none of them seem to be writing reviews on the website for me. So there's a lot of women what I've wrote on there.
I can't write a review of a woman's book.
Yeah, and I was thinking to myself, is the perception of it's a woman's book because it's a purple book cover with a purple love heart and it says looking after me. I was thinking, is that feminine? I don't know.
Well, is self-care feminized?
Yeah.
That's an interesting question. I mean, because there's definitely a masculine version of it, but that seems to involve lots of lifting weights and popping pills.
Yeah. Yeah. Whereas, so the book, I think, like I've said, I'm going to focus my business on perimenopausal business women because they're going through change. But I think the book can be read by anyone. And I think it is particularly helpful for people who are struggling, or are going through stress or depression or anxiety, or feel stuck and, you know, they can't see a different way. I think that would really work well for people to realise how the mind actually does work.
Well, yeah. And mentioning change, I mean, one of the things that people don't realise is the actual physical changes that take place with the brain. Like when you're a teenager and your brain physically changes shape, and that sort of happens at other points in your life. Like as you move into middle age, your brain is changing again, isn't it? And this is it's a weird time because there's, you know, we all kind of assume that we just live. We're born, we go through all these stages of living until we eventually reach our death. But not everyone gets there. We're all dying all the way along.
Oh yeah, I love that. That is one of the activities of living.
It's true, isn't it? And it's like, and I remember hitting my 40s and my dad saying to me, like, oh, you know, that's when all my friends died, sort of thing. And it's like, yeah, loads of us at this time, and that's why it's difficult. Loads of us would be dead. Like, we'd be dying in the workplace, we'd be dying from various other accidents and industrial accidents and whatever, you know, and lack of medicine or lack of knowledge and all these kind of things. And it's work. It's hard to a degree to stay alive. There's a level at which you just wake up and you're still alive.
Yeah.
But there's also like you have to take kind of some active steps as well in staying alive. Like at the very minimum, you need the motivation to keep going. You know, like the desire. Yeah, I don't know what the point of that was. But
Well, I don't, but I loved it. Start listening to you because a lot of people don't like to talk about death in our culture.
Oh, and English people hate it. They can't cope with it.
Yeah, and so I'm Buddhist. I've been Buddhist for like 20 odd years, and so death is a big part of the teachings, and people can think, oh, that's morbid, talking about death, but actually we need to sit and reflect, and it helps us appreciate the life what we do have, because like you say, there's a lot what goes into us staying alive, and so many people didn't wake up this morning, but we forget how precious our life is, how lucky we are to have it, and to make the most of it. You know, instead of looking at it in a negative, oh, we can't talk about death. And I think that is another big driver for people, the fear of death. That is massive.
Well, why as people approach middle age, why are so many of them, so many people are like, I need to give back. Give what back? What have you been taking? But that whole thing of, it's like I've worked in this job and I just needed to get money. Now I need meaning. Now mortality is on my radar properly. And now I need meaning. Now I need so using me as an example, I don't have kids. I don't have, I didn't get married. Like I don't have a family unit to support. It's like, so what am I doing? What am I doing?
What is your purpose?
What am I going to leave? What's important and meaningful? And you're kind of bothered about those questions when you're not really that bothered. You just want money to go out. Well,
yeah.
I mainly wanted money to go out. But as you get older, you're kind of like, something important should happen at some point, shouldn't it? So yeah, it's. But again, this is like you're starting to see. So going back to the perimenopausal stuff, like that's been on my radar for a year or two now, and the main driver of that is I won't name drop because I haven't interviewed it yet, but it was somebody on LinkedIn, and I'd see a lot of their posts, and they were Leeds based, but then they moved away. But that whole area, I'm aware of that because people were talking about it, and that sort of built a bit of media. But people don't generally talk about this sort of period of your life, because the media is very much focused on youth, huge culture, and selling stuff. People with disposable incomes to buy landfill.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I think we need to talk about this time more, and there's a lot to unpack in it. Because if you've been working for 20 years, no matter what you're doing, like even if you're doing something rubbish, like I did a lot of the time, you're still learning all sorts of things, and you still have lots of experience and value. I don't know where I'm going with this, but what I'm kind of saying is that I think we're starting to see the beginning of that conversation, and I think it's coming through something like perimenopausal, but I think it will widen out into a sort of, not quite a second puberty, but like this is another period in your life where there's a big transformation, sort of comparable with puberty. Because if say you get married in your 20s, or you couple up in your 20s and you have kids, your early 40s, they're going to be adults. This is the period where it's like, okay, so what do I do now? Like the kids never go away. You're always going to have to support them and pay for them and so on and so forth. But they're also starting to leave home, kind of, depending on the housing market. And it's that period of life of like, well, I've done that job, so what do I do now? What is this time? And if this time's for me, then who am I if I'm not parent anymore and that person. Who am I now? What do I want to do? And that's when these questions sort of come to the fore. How many people change their careers and so on at this sort of stage in their life, or they do strike out on their own? I do think I think it's a conversation that will get bigger.
And there's just so much what goes with that as well, because it's the impact as you as a person, but then you've also got a family what you live with, and then if you've got all the hormones and all the changes what you're going through and the impact that has, you know, when you're shouting at your kids, or you know, like I found myself yesterday going off on one, and then I stopped, and yesterday was, it's very rare I have down days now and bad days, but yesterday was one of them days, and I knew it were hormonal, and I had the self-awareness, and I allow myself 24 hours now. If I'm feeling like that, you can feel as moody as you want, Mel, and you can feel sorry for yourself, but then after that you crack on. But it's because I do have a lot of self-awareness and things like that, and I don't want to not acknowledge things. So anyway, I cracked up on my daughter yesterday over some washing, and then I thought, no, stop, and I called down and said, I'm really sorry about that, and spoke about the whole thought process behind it, which was, you know, you might have a little outburst, but, and the thought process behind that might have only took 2 seconds, but there was a lot of thought process behind it, and it can just create so much problems, but I don't know if, so for me, I've realised now that I'm undiagnosed ADHD. That's another big topic, isn't it? But that was quite enlightening once I realised that. My son got diagnosed with autism and ADD 2 or 3 years ago. And it wasn't until I was reading stuff for him, and then it just hit me one day like, wow, because when they'd said they were testing him for ADHD, I said, oh, you don't have ADHD. He don't bounce about all over and stuff like that. And then when the doctor gave me the results and he said, oh, he's got ADD, it's the inner type, his mind's active. So then when I was reading about it, and then I thought, oh my God, that's you.
That sounds like me.
Yeah.
That sounds like me.
And it just made so much sense as to why I've been like I have over all the years, all the crazy behaviour I've done, risk taking, dopamine fixes, why I felt so, because I had like 1,000 tabs all open at once. So that gave me lots of answers. But that incident yesterday, when I've, shouted at my daughter, but then I've stopped and thought, no. And then I've thought about all the thoughts, what came before that. And it's like, wow, so many thoughts in 0.2 seconds.
It's amazing how fast your brain works.
Yeah.
What did I want to say about that? Did I want to say anything to that? Is there anything that you haven't said that you would like to get on the podcast? Like, is there anything, or that you want me to ask you about that we haven't covered? Is there anything that you need to tell people?
I can think of.
I know that puts you on the spot, but don't worry about that, because all this can be cut out, so there's no...
I don't know, I can't think. Have we said everything?
We said about the launch, we've said the book. Let's do the socials. So, do you know your socials?
So Mel Can Coach is my Instagram. There's not many followers on there. Yeah. That's the one what my daughter set up, and I think she's undiagnosed ADHD as well, because she set that up and then it trails off. She gets lots of ideas, likes to do lots of things, and then so I do need to work on that more. But it's there, at least it's started. But LinkedIn is Melissa Canavan, and try and be quite active on there, because they say be consistent, don't they? And so I don't want to be posting every day, because that's not me, and I don't want to do that. So I've been trying to do at least once or twice a week, but when I'm not, I am engaging on people's posts, because I didn't like to do that before neither, so that's growth. And now,
yeah, that's a weird one, isn't it? Because it feels like that's sort of accessible to anyone, but also it's not that easy to do, and like anything, it's practice, isn't it? It's, you have to do a few comments, and they're probably, nobody will notice, which is the main thing. I think that's the thing that people forget with social media is it kind of is a safe space, because most of the time nobody's going to see it.
Yeah, and everyone's just bothered about their own thing anyway, aren't they? But yeah, I've been making a conscious effort to do that, because I have been seeing some quite deep posts, really, and I feel like I have to comment on that, and I have to comment being my authentic self, being raw and open and honest, because if you are putting a raw and open, honest thing post, then I'm going to answer like that, whereas before I wouldn't have dared do that. Not dared, but I am being quite vulnerable out there. You know, people have been talking about, I commented on one the other day about fathers, and I were honest on there and said I used to think that I hated my father, but it wasn't until I was 17 at uni and the lecturer triggered me because she said something and I was absolutely furious, and I said, you don't know what you're talking about, my dad's a bastard. And people in the class like looked and they said, she just said that. But then they started saying, yeah, mine is. And then when I went home and thought about it, that was a realisation that, wow, actually you don't hate your dad, you love him, but you've been putting this defence mechanism up because he want a normal dad, and he didn't show me love like a normal dad would, and all that kind of stuff. And I used to get attention off my dad when I'd been too naughty for my mum, because I used to be really naughty. But when I was really naughty and she really couldn't cope with me, she'd phone him and he'd come and take me. So, you know, once you realise your patterns, like, oh, no wonder I was really bad as a child, because I just wanted his attention.
Yeah, and he was...
And that's when I'd get
the
it.
punishment and the reward there.
Yeah, but I didn't realise that. So yeah, so when I was at uni and I had this realisation that, oh, actually I do love my dad, I don't hate him. And then part of that process as well was accepting my dad for who he was instead of who I wanted him to be. Because I wanted him to be a normal dad, but he's not normal and is never going to be normal. And once I accepted that, it was like, yeah.
That's made me think of something very bizarre. That's made me think that social media is good, actually, but it's not doing what it should be doing. So I think that, you know, we all walk around with these things, with thoughts, memes in our head that we picked up from various places, that we think, this is the world. This is the world. And you don't even know that they don't link up and they don't make sense, but you carry all this stuff around and you're going, this is the world. And it's not until some of that comes out of your mouth, out of your head, into the world, and someone goes, yes, you're absolutely right, or what the hell are you talking about, that you really know. And loads of these things we're certain of, but they haven't ever been examined.
Yeah.
But we're sure of it. And then sometimes it'll accidentally slip out and someone will go, what? And then that's the point at which it gets questioned or it gets disabused or gets challenged or whatever. And I think a huge problem is getting all of that shit out of your head, you know, like, and I think that's what social media should do. It should get all our nonsense out so that people can go, that's nonsense, so that you're operating with good premises rather than a bunch of things you picked up from Christmas crackers and a bit of TV and a newspaper and half an overheard conversation and something your mum said and something that some guy in a school said once. And
Yeah. I think like with social media and stuff now, I think a lot more people are starting to be the real selves from what I'm seeing, or maybe it's just the people what I'm resonating with, being raw and real and authentic, and I think that is great. I think this is what the world needs more of, because like you said, we're all walking around with this crap inside of us. You know, we're carrying a lot of stuff, shame, guilt, and what we don't want no one to know about.
Other people's agendas,
yeah.
What you're supposed to be, you should be this for me, well this guy wants me to be this woman over there wants me to be this guy wants me to be this, that woman wants me to be this.
Yeah.
Who should I be? I'll try and be all these people, and then it'll be me in this separate little bubble that does other things. It's like, you're that person all the time.
Yeah, and just saying these things out loud, you know, like, because then that makes other people feel comfortable to be able to speak their truth. I feel like lately a lot of the conversations what I am having are really deep, raw, open, honest conversations, and that's allowing other people to do that too. And then it just creates deeper connections and trust, and I am loving all these conversations what I am having, rather than shallow stuff what don't really mean, or you know, what the Kardashians doing. You know, I'm not really into that kind of.
Well, I mean, it's the same for, like, it doesn't have to be they're all lifestyle people now, aren't they? Like, whatever the leader of your country is, there'll be masses of lifestyle material about what their cat and their house and their cat. Who gives a shit? Do your job.
Yeah.
Do it better, because you're not doing it well. Okay, I think that's all my questions. I think I've managed to get some random rants out of both of us. Is there anything else you want to add before I switch off?
No, I think that's it.
It's pretty comprehensive. Okay, so I shall say thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you again to Melissa for being my guest. Thanks, as always, to all my guests, and thanks to you, Leeds, for being my subject. You can find Melissa Canavan at www.authormelissacanavan, that's CANAVAN.com. Or you can buy the book at www.authormelissacanavan.com/buy-the-book. Also, have a look at shinecollective.co.uk/she-can-shine. So in 5 years, we're only 150 episodes in, so we desperately need all the help and as much of it as we can get from Leeds to really start pushing this forward now. There's more interviews ready to be made up for Series 5, which will be dropping right on the heels of this episode, but I need to be finding paying work, or I need paying for the work I have done on this and the work I'll need to do on getting much more of this show produced. I've got 18 interviews in the can already for this year. If I can get paid for the time to work on them, I can get those episodes out quicker. I always need listeners and guests, but most importantly, right now, I need donations. Any amount, regular or irregular. Loiners, we need to start the ball rolling seriously on getting some financial support for this project if we're to get anywhere with doing this. We need to start generating income for it so that it can support itself. So if you can help me with getting working hours to generate revenue and finally start paying for itself, either directly or indirectly, please do. I desperately need the support and your donations, no matter how small, or encourage others to donate as well. The more you agitate around the podcast, the more energy you're putting into this project, which makes it easier to draw more energy into the project. You make this successful or unsuccessful. I don't. I just make the thing. Working Hours is produced, recorded, edited and published by Simon Treen for Western Studios, Leeds Limited. The music was The Bees from Chopin's Etudes, which is in the public domain and was taken from museopen.org. Go to western-studios.com and use the contact page on the site to drop me a message about either Working Hours or about your own Leeds podcast project. Keep up to date with Working Hours and find out about the other great Leeds podcasts that Western Studios is involved with by following Western Studios Leeds on Facebook at facebook.com/western_studios_Leeds and on LinkedIn, linkedin.com/company/Western-Studios. Western Studios Leeds is available to loiners to help them realise their own podcast projects for only £30 for an hour of audio podcast work or £40 for an hour of video podcast work. Email makemypodcast@western-studios.com with details of your project and what support you want to get your Leeds podcast made. Whatever your podcast question or need, get in touch with Western Studios Leeds.